Today is Monday, September 21st. Tomorrow is the first day of fall, my favorite season, second favorite. I really like winter because I like snow, but fall really is my favorite season. All right, Washington State geography. So we're going to work through our PowerPoint today. It's also going to help you complete the labeling of the geography in your packet that you picked up from the bin. It's also on your team's assignment if you wanted to do it online. So Washington State geography. This is the worksheet that is in the packet as well as online. You're going to be labeling these different physical features or landforms onto the Washington State map. So we're going to go through them today and see where they're located. In other words, the PowerPoint will help you in labeling your map. Here is Olympia. Olympia is kind of at the bottom of Puget Sound. On a Washington State map, almost always, it has a star. That is because it is our capital. It is where the governor lives and works. So when we go through the PowerPoint, there are some facts for you that will help you learn a little bit more about our state. It says, visit the Washington State Capitol located in Olympia. Olympia has 40 public parks for your recreation enjoyment. Public trails lead to saltwater beaches where native tribes once met for potlatches through wood thick with big leaf maples and towering Douglas firs. Salmon return to the Bud Inlet each fall and run the fish ladder under the Fifth Avenue Bridge. So it's actually a fun place to go if you ever get to Olympia, go to the fish ladder. It's actually really interesting. So here's our Capitol building in Olympia. This is where the governor works each day. And then this is where the fish ladder is located. It's kind of a fun place to visit. All right, another feature that you're going to label on your map is Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is an active volcano in our state. Ascending, that means rising up to 14,410 feet above sea level. Mount Rainier stands as an icon in the Washington landscape. An active volcano, Mount Rainier is the most glaciated peak in the contiguous USA, spawning 6 major rivers. So it is covered in snow and ice at the very, very top year round. Beautiful Mount Rainier. People love to go hike Mount Rainier. It's a fun place to go for the day. Have a picnic, do some hiking, see snow in the middle of summer. Seattle.
And clouds.
Seattle. What's that, Tavia?
And clouds.
That's right. You can go way up into the clouds above everybody. Seattle. It is our most populated city in the state. It is right here at the edge of Puget Sound. It's easy to think you've got Seattle all figured out, since so many of its icons have been around for a while. The Space Needle just celebrated its 50th birthday. Everyone knows about the flying salmon at Pike Place Market. And yeah, the city shows up in a lot of movies and TV shows. Seattle. And it's home of the Seattle Mariners and Seattle Seahawks. All right, Puget Sound. Puget Sound is an inlet where the Pacific Ocean kind of comes in. It creates different peninsulas and islands here in this area. Puget Sound covers 1.6 million acres and has 2,500 miles of shoreline. Think beaches. The region's 2.1 million acres of state-owned submerged saltwater lands are home to 211 fish species, 100 seabird species, and 13 types of marine mammals. Another fun place to visit. Puget Sound. And yes, those are orcas that can be seen in Puget Sound. All right, Cascade Mountain Range. Remember, it starts in Canada. It kind of is at a diagonal, but it runs north and south in our state, kind of separating our state into Western Washington and Eastern Washington. The Cascades extend northward for more than 700 miles from Northern California through Oregon and Washington to the Fraser River in southern British Columbia, Canada. Many peaks exceed 10,000 feet high, including Mount Hood and Mount Rainier. That's the highest point in Washington and in the whole Cascade Range. So Mount Rainier is one of the biggest in that mountain range. Cascade Mountains. They're beautiful, so pretty. So if you think about Mount Rainier being a snow-covered peak, and then you go down in elevation a little bit, then you have these beautiful kind of jagged mountains covered in trees and grass. Really pretty. Olympic Mountains. Remember, it's on my bucket list. I can't wait to go to the Olympic National Forest. It is rainforest because it gets so much rain. The trees there are different than what you would see here in Eastern Washington up in the mountains. The Olympic Mountains, located in northwest corner of the state, rises from the Pacific Ocean to an elevation of 7,980 feet at the peak of Mount Olympus. The mountain range is bounded on three sides by waters of the Pacific Ocean. To the west, Puget Sound to the east, and the Strait of Juan de Fuca to the north. The higher peaks are covered with glaciers and snowfields. They feed the many rivers that radiate outward from the center of the range. So rivers typically, guys, they come from melting snow and ice, traveling down the sides of the mountains, joining together to create a river. And remember, they're always trying to get to the ocean. So lots of rivers come out of the Olympic Mountains as well as the Cascade Mountain Range. Here's an example of the Olympic Mountains, very jagged, rough looking mountains covered in ice and snow at the top. All right, here we have arrows pointing to the Columbia River, because the Columbia River comes out of Canada, travels through our state and along the border between Oregon and Washington out to the Pacific Ocean. So the Columbia River is the largest river in the Pacific Northwest region of North America. It's one of the world's greatest sources of hydroelectric power. That means it has a dam on the river. That flowing water going through the dam turns turbines and causes a generator to make electricity. And with its tributaries, those are other smaller rivers that flow into the Columbia. Those smaller tributaries represent a third of the potential hydropower in the whole United States. So the Columbia River is a very important river, not just to the state of Washington, but to our country. Okay, the borders. So you're going to be labeling on your map the borders of Idaho to the east, Oregon to the south, the Pacific Ocean to the west, Canada to the north. Okay, so the border north at the very top of our state touches Canada. To the east, we go into Idaho. If we go south across the Columbia River, we go into Oregon. And if we go west, we're going to run into the ocean. So we have Canada, Idaho, Oregon, and the Pacific Ocean. You'll be labeling those today on your map. The Pacific Ocean. Lots of fun fishing. If you ever go to the beach, you are at the Pacific Ocean, all along Oregon and Washington. Some of us go to the beach in Oregon as well, and that is still the Pacific Ocean. So the Pacific Ocean is the largest of the planet's bodies of water, and it covers 64 million square miles, or about 28% of the Earth's surface. More than the combined area of the world's continents. So the ocean is very big. From the shoreline's edges to thousands of feet below, the wild waters that border Washington boast fascinating animals, plants, currents, and geology. This vibrant region is one of the Earth's most productive ecosystems. Remember, an ecosystem is an area where lots of living things thrive and live. Washington State has a unique array of coastal and estuarine environments along the Pacific Ocean and Puget Sound. Around 70% of Washington residents live in counties that border the coast. Wouldn't it be fun to live at the ocean year-round? So lots of people live here on the West Coast along the ocean. So props to the Pacific. Coastal tourism and Washington's robust commercial fishing industry provide important jobs that sustain coastal communities. Washington's coastal areas provide vital recreational, transportation, and cultural benefits to Washington residents and support a stunning array of wildlife. So where do you live on the map? You're going to be finding on our map today where Union Gap or Yakima is located. Okay, here, kind of central Washington, we call it. Right here is Yakima. On this map, Union Gap is small. It's not as big as Yakima. And so what happens a lot of times on a map, they don't list the smallest cities because then we'd never be able to read the map. It would be too full. So right here in central Washington, you can see Yakima. And right here below in that space would be Union Gap. Okay. So on the map today, you're also going to be listing where Yakima or Union Gap is located.